5.
By the spring of 1976, Oliver was hot property. Owned by Michael Miller, but still handled by his old trainer Frank Berger, this ape that walks upright and acts like a human being was invited to be the star attraction at the Explorers Club annual banquet in New York City. He created a sensation.
The curtain opened and Frank Berger came out with Oliver, walking him on a chain tether, and walked him back and forth, and it was absolutely dead silent in the ballroom.
As you can see, his head is rather small for proportionate and not proportionate with his body. It's approximately 2/3 the size it ought to be. Mr. Berger, could you run him once again just so people can see that? Okay, thank you very much.
The Explorers Club was the start of a whirlwind career. Oliver was invited to appear on a television special in Japan. Michael Miller agreed, as long as it was to be a serious scientific program with the aim of unlocking the mystery of Oliver.
Japan was interesting. That was a trade-off of scientific versus entertainment. The gentleman who promoted the notion of a network special knew that we, as a group, had an interest in the scientific investigation of Oliver and didn't have the funds to do it.
Before Oliver had even set foot in Japan, Michael Miller discovered that trade-off was likely to be more entertainment than science. As Oliver boarded the flight, the Japanese film crew set the tone for much of what was to follow.
They did some footage of him sitting in a chair as if that's the way he flew over there. Quite frankly, it irked me because I didn't realize they had shot that footage. And so when I looked at television, there is Oliver sitting in a seat being waited on by a stewardess. That wasn't the way it happened. He was in his cage, packed as baggage.
When he arrived in Japan, the media were out in force to see him. For 3 weeks, Michael Miller and Oliver toured the country. The camera crew was keen to capture the celebrity Chimp and his supposedly celebrity lifestyle.
It was obviously well known that there were these people from America traveling around with this strange creature. The word had gotten out.
They were put up in traditional Japanese inns, where Oliver was dressed in a kimono. Again, all for the benefit of the cameras. By now, the whole country was talking about this mystery ape. For the TV show, Oliver underwent a battery of scientific investigations. The results were presented on this television special called Oliver, Man or Ape. It's said that 26 million viewers tuned in to find out the answer.
Hello, be nice. Okay.
Contributing to the debate were members of the 1960s pop group The Monkees.
I'm very interested to find out exactly what he is. We're here because we are also monkeys.
Of course, the one thing Oliver was never confused with being was a monkey. In coming to Japan, Michael Miller had been promised hard scientific evidence to explain the phenomenon of Oliver. Eventually, the program moved on from the showbiz and presented its findings. One scientist did a test looking at Oliver's centre of gravity, which apparently concluded that he was more human than Chimp. But such tests could not answer the fundamental question: was he a human-chimpanzee hybrid? To do that, he had to be sedated, his blood taken, and his chromosomes counted. At last, Michael Miller was going to find out if Oliver really was a humanzee. Or so he thought.
My remembrance is that there were 47 chromosomes that they found, and that the humans have 46, and the ape has 48. and that would put him right in the middle.
The TV show implied that the results were far from conclusive. Of the 40 cells analysed, 38 came back saying Oliver was a chimp. But 2 cells showed 47 chromosomes, 1 more than a human and 1 less than a chimp. In effect, a hybrid. Japanese doctors attributed the discrepancy to human error. However, far from resolving the mystery, the TV show had simply helped hype it to fever pitch. But there was worse to come.
And I went to a press conference, and as a result of which certain things were said that caused me to start a lawsuit.
It was reported that a Japanese actress had agreed to have sexual intercourse with Oliver, and that the event would be televised in the interests of science.
Apparently somebody at that press conference said that while we were there, Oliver would mate with a human being. That's the story. That's the actress that said that she was going to do it. But it was obviously to get, and she did get, quite good publicity for her career. And obviously I would never do that or condone that. And this is part of what distressed me, that I had to constantly watch out for these things. And I never caught it before it was published. When it was published, I sued.
He got a published apology, but by now Michael Miller had had enough of the media spotlight.
The truth is, in a way, I regret ever having met with him, because once I had met with him, it was destiny that I had to part with him. I'm an attorney. I couldn't keep him. It wasn't practical. So the inevitable departure was on the calendar, so to speak.
Michael Miller and Oliver parted company amid accusations of exploitation.
My guess is that originally the attempt was to use Oliver as something that could be put on display that they could then in turn market for commercial purposes.
If anybody were to allege that I took advantage of him to make money, they'd be incorrect. I didn't make money. It cost me money to have this venture. But I will admit that my motive was very personal, insofar as I wanted to partake in an important discovery. That was important to me.
If it's found that he is half human, would that merely be a scientific curiosity? Or could it fundamentally alter the way we see ourselves?
It could be an example of what scientists call basic research, but it would have profound implications for human evolution and our relationship to other species. It might suggest, for example, that humans and great apes, in spite of their apparent differences, are much more closely related at the level of their basic biochemistry than heretofore anybody had ever imagined.
It was thought that using tools was one of the things which distinguished humans from animals. We now know that chimps routinely use tools to find food. Fishing for termites, a nutrient-rich delicacy, requires skill and patience. We've even discovered that chimpanzees appear to have a form of culture. Culture can be thought of as traditions that are passed down by example rather than instinctively inherited. For example, in one part of Africa, chimps traditionally use a stone to crack nuts, whereas in another area they'll use wood, even though stones are available. The basics of culture, crude though they are being seen at work.
What is more pleasant than tea in the garden on a nice summer's day?
Back in the 50s, a fashion developed for using chimpanzees as human clowns, ridiculing their social and cultural ineptitude.
Really, the manners here.
But often the chimps were perfectly capable of getting it right and had to be taught to ham it up for the audience. The stereotype was reinforced and we all felt suitably superior. While these chimps can be taught to behave like a human, Oliver didn't need to be trained. Things seemed to come naturally to him.
One for the pot, that's me.
I remember the first time I met him, he walked over to me to shake my hand. Now, I figured, okay, that may be training. But when he went to shake my hand, he grabbed me at my elbow. And so, unless somebody took the trouble to train him to shake hands in a warm manner, now it's one thing to just extend your hand, it's another thing to extend your hand and give a warm welcome. I found those things very strange.